Captain Olivia Martinez stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Horizon, her eyes fixed on the massive alien ships that had appeared seemingly out of nowhere. The Horizon was humanity's newest deep space vessel, designed to push the boundaries of explored space, but they never expected to find company this far from Earth. "Captain, they're hailing us," said Lieutenant Sam Rogers, his fingers dancing across the communications console. "Put them through," Martins replied, straightening her uniform. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a reptilian being with deep purple scales and 4 yellow eyes. A series of metal ridges ran along what appeared to be its skull, and when it spoke, sharp teeth glinted in the light. "Attention, unknown vessel. This is Admiral Krexthor of the glorious Zeraxian Empire. You have entered Imperial space. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." Martinez kept her expression neutral. "Admiral, I am Captain Olivia Martins of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon. We weren't aware this region belonged to anyone. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations." The alien made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Diplomatic relations. The Zeraxian Empire does not establish relations with primitive species. We conquer. We rule. We have dominion over 30 star systems, and soon yours will join them." While the Admiral continued his speech, Martins noticed Rogers silently analyzing the alien vessels. "Captain," Rogers whispered, "their weapons systems are active, but they're using directed energy weapons that wouldn't even penetrate our basic shields. Their technology seems centuries behind ours." Martinez nodded slightly, careful not to show her relief. She kept her attention on the increasingly agitated alien commander. "You have 1 Earth hour to surrender your vessel or face destruction," Admiral Krexthor concluded, clearly expecting fear or panic in response. "Admiral, perhaps we could discuss this further. We have much to offer in terms of cultural exchange," Martins said calmly. The alien commander's upper eyes narrowed. "Culture? We have no interest in your primitive art or music. The Zeraxian Empire requires only obedience." As the communication ended, the bridge crew exchanged glances, some struggling to contain smiles. "Orders, Captain?" asked Chief Engineer Patel, who had been monitoring the alien ship's power signatures. "Send an encrypted message to Earth Defense Command. Include all our scans of their ships and a recording of the conversation," Martins said, "and maintain our position. Let's not give them any reason to fire those adorable little weapons." Lieutenant Rogers couldn't contain a chuckle. "Ma'am, their propulsion systems are basic fusion drives. If we needed to leave, they couldn't catch us." "Let's hope it doesn't come to that," Martins replied. "Earth will want to handle this carefully. First contact is always delicate, even when the other side is overconfident." The crew monitored as 5 more Zeraxian vessels arrived, positioning themselves in what they clearly thought was an intimidating formation. The aliens seemed confused by the humans' lack of panic. "Captain, we're receiving a message from Admiral Daniels at Earth Defense Command," Rogers announced. Martinez nodded. "Put it through to my ready room." The Admiral's face appeared on her private screen. "Captain Martinez, nicely handled. We're sending a diplomatic fleet your way, but we don't want to escalate this. These Zeraxians clearly don't understand what they're dealing with." "Recommendations, sir?" Admiral Daniels smiled. "Continue as you are. Be respectful but firm. And try not to laugh too obviously when they threaten you again." "Understood, sir," Martins replied, fighting back a smile of her own. Horizon out. 5 days after the Horizon's encounter with the Zeraxian patrol, Admiral Frank Daniels stood in the war room at Earth Defense Command headquarters. Holographic displays showed the Zeraxian ships still surrounding the Horizon, maintaining their positions but taking no hostile action. "They've been patient," said Kate Wilson, the strategic officer assigned to the situation. "More patient than I expected for a supposedly aggressive empire." Daniels nodded. "They're waiting for reinforcements. Our long-range scans show 3 more battle groups heading to their position." The door slid open, and a young officer rushed in. "Admiral, We've received a formal message from someone calling himself Supreme Emperor of the 30 Suns, absolute ruler of the Xeraxian Empire. Let's hear it, Daniel said, leaning against the central table. The room's main screen displayed a much older Xeraxian than Admiral Krexthor. This one had darker scales and elaborate metal decorations embedded in his skull ridges. He spoke with the slow, deliberate tone of someone used to being obeyed. People of Earth, your exploration vessel has trespassed on the edge of our glorious empire. We have decided to be merciful. Submit to our rule, send tribute of your planet's resources, and we will grant you protected status as a vassal world. Refusal will result in your complete destruction. You have 3 Earth days to accept our generous offer. When the message ended, several officers in the room exchanged glances, some suppressing smiles. They really have no idea, do they? Wilson said, pulling up humanity's military capabilities on her tablet. Daniel studied the data. Humanity had colonized over 500 star systems, possessed energy technology 3 generations beyond what the scans showed of Xeraxian capabilities, and had defense systems that could neutralize threats without destroying them. The Xeraxians, with their 30 systems and outdated technology, were like children threatening adults. Options, Daniels asked the room. We could ignore them, suggested Commander Ellis, the head of diplomatic relations. But that might encourage aggressive action against the horizon. We could demonstrate our full capabilities, said Wilson, but revealing our true strength might cause panic throughout their empire. Daniels paced the room, thinking. We need to show strength without appearing threatening. We'll assemble a small diplomatic fleet. 5 ships should be sufficient. We'll go to meet them, hear their demands in person, and make it clear we won't be intimidated, but we're open to peaceful relations. Sir, Wilson interjected, my analysis shows the Xeraxians may interpret small numbers as weakness. Then we'll make sure these 5 ships are impressive enough to make our point, Daniels replied with a slight smile. 3 days later, Daniels stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel Starlight, leading a formation of 5 ships toward the designated meeting point. Though few in number, each ship carried advanced defensive capabilities, matter energy transporters, and gravity manipulation technology, all carefully hidden behind modest exteriors. Admiral, said the communications officer, the Xeraxians are demanding to know why we've sent only 5 vessels to meet their armada. Daniels straightened his uniform. Tell them our diplomatic fleet is more than sufficient for peaceful discussions between potential allies. As they approached the meeting coordinates, sensors detected approximately 200 Xeraxian warships arranged in battle formation. They're trying to intimidate us, Wilson observed, standing beside Daniels. How do you feel, Kate? Daniels asked quietly. Wilson watched the primitive warships on the view screen and smiled. Like we're watching children with water pistols threatening a battleship. Daniels nodded. Let's be kind then. We were all children once. He turned to the communications officer. Open a channel. Let's see what ultimatum they have for us today. The 5 human ships glided to a stop at the designated coordinates, facing the massive Xeraxian fleet. 200 warships formed a crescent pattern that was clearly meant to appear menacing. Their purple and black hulls gleamed under the light of a nearby star. Quite the welcome party, Admiral Daniels remarked, standing calmly on the bridge of the Starlight. Chief Engineer Eric Sanchez glanced up from his console with an amused expression. Sir, I've completed my analysis of their ships. They're using basic fusion drives, the kind we abandoned a century ago. Their shields could barely withstand a solar flare, let alone our defensive systems. Keep that information to yourself for now, Daniel said. We're here to make friends, not enemies. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a Xeraxian adorned with elaborate armor. 6 metal spikes protruded from his head crest, and gold symbols covered his chest plate. I am Supreme Commander Voxlar of the glorious Xeraxian Armada, the alien announced, his voice booming. You face the might of 200 Imperial warships. Your pitiful fleet is surrounded. Admiral Daniels nodded respectfully. Supreme Commander, I am Admiral Frank Daniels of Earth. We received your Emperor's message and have come to discuss peaceful relations between our peoples. Voxelar's upper eyes narrowed. There is nothing to discuss. The terms are simple. Earth will submit to Xeraxian rule, provide quarterly tribute of minerals and biological resources, and accept imperial governors in all major population centers. Several officers on the bridge exchanged glances. Lieutenant Mia Gonzalez, the cultural specialist, had to turn away to hide her smile. Those terms seem rather one-sided. Daniels replied evenly. Perhaps I could share some information about Earth that might help you understand our position better. Your position is irrelevant, Voxelar interrupted. We have scanned your vessels. They carry minimal weapons. You came here expecting to negotiate from weakness. Daniels sighed and nodded to his tactical officer. Perhaps a small demonstration would help clarify things. A holographic display appeared in the space between the fleets, showing Earth and its colonies. As the display zoomed out, more and more human-controlled systems appeared, dozens, then hundreds, spreading across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. This is the current extent of human space, Daniels explained. We have peaceful relations with 15 other sentient species and defensive alliances with 7 of them. Voxelar's expression didn't change, but several Xeraxians visible in the background began conferring urgently. Fabrications, deceptions, Voxelar hissed. If you controlled such territory, you would have brought more than 5 ships. We didn't think it necessary, Daniels replied. These 5 vessels are more than adequate for a diplomatic mission. Voxelar slammed his fist against his command chair. You mock the Xeraxian Empire. No species would dare show such disrespect. Throughout this exchange, Strategic Officer Kate Wilson was monitoring Xeraxian communications. Sir, she whispered to Daniels, they're debating whether to believe our display. Half their command staff thinks we're bluffing, but they're worried about the calm way we're responding to their threats. Daniels nodded slightly, then addressed Voxelar again. Supreme Commander, we have no wish for conflict. We're prepared to establish trade relations and cultural exchanges that would benefit both our peoples. Enough, Voxelar roared. You will submit or be destroyed. You have 1 standard hour to prepare your surrender documents. As the communication ended, Lieutenant Sanchez couldn't contain himself any longer. Did he just give us an hour to surrender our 5 ships to his 200? Indeed he did, Daniels replied with a small smile. And when that hour is up, I suspect we'll all get a valuable lesson in interspecies communication. What's the plan, Admiral? Wilson asked. Daniels leaned back in his chair. Let's give them exactly 59 minutes of silence to worry about what happens next. Exactly 59 minutes after the Xeraxian ultimatum, the bridge of the Starlight remained calm. Admiral Daniels sat in his command chair, reviewing reports on his tablet, while his crew maintained their positions with professional discipline that belied their amusement. Time's up, Admiral, announced Communications Officer Diane Harper, glancing at the countdown display. The Xeraxians are hailing us again. On screen, Daniels replied, setting aside his tablet. Supreme Commander Voxelar appeared, his posture rigid with what seemed like anticipation. Your time has expired, humans. What is your answer? Supreme Commander, Daniels began, we respectfully decline your terms. Earth and its colonies will remain independent. However, we offer friendship and the possibility of mutually beneficial relations. Voxelar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture that Lieutenant Gonzalez identified as disbelief. You refuse. Voxelar growled. Perhaps you misunderstood your situation. He gestured to someone off-screen. A demonstration is in order. Tactical Officer Greg Bennett straightened at his station. Sir, they're powering weapons on their forward vessels. Let them fire the first shot, Daniels said calmly. Harper, broadcast on all frequencies. Harper nodded. Channel open. Sir. Attention Xeraxian fleet, Daniels said clearly. We advise against hostile action. We have no wish for confrontation. On screen, Voxeler made a dismissive gesture. Fire warning shots. Let them taste Xyraxian power. 5 Xyraxian warships released bright purple energy beams aimed directly at the starlight. The bridge crew watched impassively as the beams struck their shields. Nothing happened. The energy weapons dissipated harmlessly against the invisible barrier protecting the human vessel, not even causing the shield indicators to flicker. Direct hits had no effect, sir, Bennett reported formally, though a smile tugged at his lips. Shields at 100%. Voxelar stared in disbelief. He barked orders, and more ships fired. A full barrage this time. Again, the energy weapons had no effect whatsoever on the human vessels. Should we respond, Admiral? Bennett asked. Daniels nodded. A minimal, non-lethal demonstration, please. Bennett pressed a sequence on his console. Activating pulse defense system, 20% power. A barely visible wave of blue energy expanded outward from the starlight, washing over the nearest Xyraxian vessels. Instantly, 5 of their ships went dark, their lights and engines shutting down completely. What have you done? Voxelar demanded, his voice rising with anger and fear. A temporary systems reset, Daniels explained calmly. Their life support remains operational, but weapons, engines, and communications will be offline for approximately 30 minutes. No one has been harmed. Harper touched her earpiece. Sir, we're receiving distress calls from the affected Xyraxian ships. Their backup systems are failing to engage. Daniels stood. Offer assistance. Prepare emergency engineering teams with translators. You wish to help them? Voxelar asked, confusion evident in his voice. Of course, Daniels replied. They pose no threat, and their crews shouldn't suffer for their leaders' decisions. Voxelar seemed at a loss for words. The Xyraxian command staff visible behind him were frantically consulting displays and speaking urgently to each other. Sir, Harper reported, the Xyraxian flagship is asking how we managed to disable their ships without any visible weapons. Daniels smiled slightly. Tell them it's an elementary defense system we equip on our exploratory vessels. Nothing special. The bridge fell silent as this information was relayed. The Xyraxians' reaction was a mixture of disbelief and growing concern. Admiral, Bennett said quietly, they're powering up more weapons. It seems they don't believe this was our standard technology. Their mistake, Daniels replied. He addressed Voxelar again. Supreme Commander, shall we continue this demonstration, or would you prefer to discuss terms of friendship between our peoples? The tense silence on the Starlight's bridge broke when Lieutenant Commander Alan Wright, the intelligence officer, looked up from his console with wide eyes. Admiral, you're not going to believe this, Wright said, shaking his head. The Xyraxians are broadcasting their battle plans on open channels. No encryption whatsoever. Admiral Daniels raised an eyebrow. Are you certain it's not a trap? Positive. Sir, they're genuinely discussing their next moves where anyone with a basic receiver could hear them. Wright adjusted his headset. They're calling for reinforcements. Lots of them. As if on cue, space rippled at the edges of the human fleet's sensor range. Dozens of warp signatures appeared, then hundreds. New contacts, announced Tactical Officer Bennett. Xyraxian vessels emerging from faster-than-light travel. Current count is 300 additional warships joining the original 200. Strategic Officer Kate Wilson studied the tactical display. They're arranging themselves in what appears to be their version of a siege formation. They think they can intimidate us with numbers. Daniels nodded thoughtfully. Deploy scout drones. Let's get a better look at what we're dealing with. Within minutes, tiny unmanned craft no larger than shuttles emerged from the human vessels, darting between the Xyraxian ships at speeds the aliens couldn't track. Sir, Wright continued, still monitoring Xyraxian communications, they're confused by our drones. They can barely detect them on their sensors, and they certainly can't catch them. Captain Nicol Rodriguez, commanding the flanking vessel Dauntless, linked into the command channel. Admiral, Permission to demonstrate our transporter technology. I have an idea that might help shift their perspective. What did you have in mind, Captain? Daniels asked. Rodriguez smiled. We've been analyzing their biology. My science team has prepared gift baskets containing safe, compatible food from Earth, fruits, vegetables, and basic medical supplies with universal translators explaining their use. Daniels considered this. And you want to transport these directly to their command vessels? Exactly, sir. Right to their bridge if possible. The Admiral chuckled. Make it so, Captain. Minutes later, Wright's expression turned to one of amazement as he listened to his headset. Sir, the Xeraxians are in complete disarray. Gift baskets have appeared on the bridges of their 20 command ships. Their officers are panicking. They can't understand how we penetrated their shields without detection. The main screen flickered back to life, showing Supreme Commander Voxlar standing next to a basket overflowing with apples, oranges, and medical supplies. His expression was a mixture of outrage and fear. What witchcraft is this? He demanded. How did you breach our defenses? Not witchcraft, Commander. Simply standard matter-energy transportation technology, Daniels replied calmly. We thought you might appreciate some refreshments while we continue our discussion. A Xeraxian officer in the background cautiously sniffed an apple, then took a tentative bite. His eyes widened in surprise. If we wished you harm, Daniels continued, we wouldn't have sent fruit. This is a gesture of goodwill, despite your continued hostility. Voxlar seemed genuinely unsettled. Our Emperor will not be pleased by these developments. He is personally leading our final battle group to this location. We look forward to meeting him, Daniels replied. Perhaps he will be more open to dialogue. After the transmission ended, Wilson approached Daniels quietly. They're bringing their leader here. That seems unusually risky. It tells us something important, Daniels replied. Their Emperor must be worried about losing face. He needs to handle this personally. Or, Bennett suggested from his station, he doesn't believe the reports he's receiving about our capabilities. Daniels nodded. Either way, the stakes just got higher. Prepare a proper welcome for His Imperial Majesty. Let's show him humanity's best face, and just enough of our technology to make it clear that threatening Earth was a serious miscalculation. The arrival of the Xeraxian Emperor's personal battle fleet was impossible to miss. Unlike the utilitarian vessels of the main armada, the Imperial ships gleamed with gold and purple ornamentation. At the center of the formation, a massive vessel twice the size of any other Xeraxian craft approached with deliberate slowness. Quite the entrance, Admiral Daniels remarked, watching the spectacle on the main viewer. Lieutenant Harper's console chimed. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Imperial flagship. They're identifying it as the Eternal Dominance. That's subtle, muttered Officer Bennett. On screen, Daniels ordered, straightening his uniform. The display revealed a Xeraxian adorned with elaborate golden armor. His purple scales were darker than the others, almost black in places, and his head crest extended into a fan-like display decorated with precious metals and glowing stones. I am Emperor Draxel, sovereign of the 30 Suns, supreme commander of the Xeraxian forces, and rightful ruler of all space, the alien announced, his voice deeper and more resonant than his subordinates. I have come to accept your surrender personally. Admiral Daniels nodded respectfully. Emperor Draxel, I am Admiral Frank Daniels of Earth. We welcome you, but I must reiterate that we have no intention of surrendering. The Emperor's upper eyes narrowed. Perhaps you misunderstand the gravity of your situation. My full fleet now surrounds your pitiful vessels. More importantly, we have identified your home colonies. Submit now, or we will destroy them one by one. Science Officer Lisa Carter approached Daniels, holding a data tablet. She whispered something in his ear, and he nodded. Emperor, Daniels said calmly, may I ask which colonies you believe you've identified? The Emperor made a gesture, and a star chart appeared beside him, showing several systems marked with Xeraxian symbols. These are the worlds we have found bearing your technology signatures, Draxol declared triumphantly. They are now within range of our battle groups. Carter stepped forward. Admiral, with your permission. Daniels nodded. My science officer has something to share with you, Emperor. Carter activated her own display. Emperor Draxol, we're familiar with these systems. In fact, we visited them over 50 years ago, but chose not to colonize them out of respect for their unique ecosystems. She expanded the display to show detailed planetary scans with timestamps. These automated research stations were left to monitor environmental conditions. They're uninhabited. The Emperor's expression didn't change, but officers in the background began conferring urgently. More deceptions, Draxol said, though with less certainty. Our intelligence is clear. These are your primary colonies. Admiral Daniels shook his head. Emperor, we've actually visited every system you claim to control. We have detailed maps of the entire region you call your empire. Impossible. Draxol roared. The Xeraxian Empire has stood for 3 centuries. No other species has matched our reach. We meant no disrespect, Daniels continued. We simply had no reason to make contact until now. We've been focused on other regions of the galaxy. The Emperor's composure finally broke. Enough of these lies. I will show you the true might of the Xeraxian Empire. He turned to his officers. Target their flagship and fire all weapons. The bridge crew of the Starlight remained calm as the massive Imperial vessel aimed its main cannon at them. The weapon glowed with gathering energy. Sir, Bennett asked quietly. Daniels nodded. Defensive measure 3, please. Target their weapon systems only. Bennett tapped a sequence into his console. A nearly invisible pulse shot from the Starlight, striking the Eternal Dominance with surgical precision. The Xeraxian flagship's lights flickered, and the charging weapon went dark. On screen, Emperor Draxol looked around in confusion as his bridge plunged into emergency lighting. What have you done? He demanded, his voice losing its imperial tone. We've temporarily disabled your weapon systems, Daniels explained. No damage to your life support or other critical systems. We have no desire to harm you or your crew, Emperor. For the first time, genuine fear showed in the Emperor's 4 eyes. The shuttle from the Starlight docked smoothly with the Xeraxian flagship Eternal Dominance, which was still operating on emergency power. Admiral Daniels led a small delegation, including senior diplomat Jack Russell and science officer Lisa Carter. They were escorted by nervous Xeraxian guards to the Imperial throne room. Emperor Draxol sat rigidly on an ornate seat that seemed designed more for intimidation than comfort. His earlier confidence had vanished, replaced by wary caution. You requested this meeting, the Emperor said, his voice carefully controlled. Speak your terms. Daniel stepped forward. First, let me clarify our position. We disabled your weapons as a defensive measure only. We can restore your systems whenever you wish. The Emperor's upper eyes narrowed. And then what? You destroy our fleet while we are helpless. Russell, the diplomat, smiled gently. If destruction was our goal, Emperor, we could have done so at any time. We prefer friendship to conquest. Friendship. Draxol seemed genuinely confused by the concept. Between a stronger power and a weaker one. That's where you misunderstand us, Daniels explained. Humans don't measure relationships by military strength. We've formed lasting alliances with many species throughout the galaxy, some more advanced than us, some less. Carter activated a holographic display showing Earth and its colonies, hundreds of worlds spanning vast sectors of space. This is the true extent of human territory, she said. We control not 30, but over 500 star systems. But more importantly, we maintain peaceful relations with 15 other spacefaring civilizations. The Emperor stared at the display, his composure finally breaking. If this is true, why did you not simply destroy us when we threatened you? Any species in the galaxy would have done so. Daniels exchanged glances with his team. Perhaps that's why we've been successful where others have struggled. We prefer friends to subjects. A Zyraxian officer entered hurriedly, approaching the Emperor with a data device. After reading it, Draxol's posture changed subtly. Our medical team reports that the supplies you transported to our ships contain treatments effective against the crimson scale disease that has been ravaging our outer colonies, he said slowly. Did you know this? Carter nodded. Our scans detected the pathogen's signature in some of your crew members. The antiviral compound in those supplies is something we developed centuries ago for a similar condition. The throne room fell silent as the Emperor processed this information. You could cure a plague that has killed millions of our citizens, he finally said, even after we threatened your worlds. Russell stepped forward. Emperor Draxol, we propose an agreement. Full restoration of your systems, medical assistance for your colonies, and the beginning of diplomatic relations between our peoples. In return, we ask only for peace and open communication. What would you gain from this arrangement? Draxol asked suspiciously. New friends, cultural exchange, and the knowledge that this region of space is stable, Russell replied. Sometimes the greatest victory is turning an enemy into an ally. The Emperor rose from his throne, towering over the human delegation. For a moment, tension filled the room. Then, he extended his four-fingered hand. The Zyraxian Empire has never before entered an agreement as equals, he said, but perhaps it is time we learn new ways. As Daniel shook the Emperor's hand, he smiled. I believe this is the beginning of a beneficial relationship for both our peoples. Later, as they prepared to return to the Starlight, the Emperor approached Daniels privately. There is one question that troubles me still, Draxol said quietly. Why did you laugh when we threatened you? My commanders reported this. Daniels considered his answer carefully. It wasn't mockery, Emperor. Sometimes humans laugh when faced with unexpected situations. We came seeking new friends among the stars and found you instead. Now it seems we found those friends after all, just not in the way we expected. The Emperor nodded slowly. The universe, it seems, has much to teach the Zyraxian Empire. And us as well, Daniels replied. That's the greatest adventure of space exploration, not conquering new worlds, but discovering new perspectives.